Hello, it's the Men with Beards podcast once again. I'm Man with Beard. I got Adam with Beard and Matthew with Beard. And I'm, of course, Jeremy with Beard. Soon to be very short beard because I have to take a passport photo.
I shortened mine up since our last meeting.
So. Yeah, but your hair is so luscious.
Oh, yeah. People keep calling it like Kenobi hair.
Let's be real. He's using L'Oreal because he's worth it. Anyway, welcome to Paper Movies, a show where we talk about movie novelizations and our beards.
Absolutely.
Today, we are talking about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom by James Kahn. And I want to point out that I was hoping we'd pull out 3 different editions of this, mainly because I wanted to thank Adam for sending me this faux leather bound
You're welcome.
copy of the Indiana Jones trilogy. But I couldn't find my paperback copy. I have at least 2 of them, and I couldn't find either of them.
I was actually at the bookstore today, and I found the Scholastic novelizations.
Oh yeah, that isn't it Ryder Wynnum wrote it?
I think so, yeah.
Which there is another junior novelization from back in the day that's written by a different person. So that's funny. James Kahn. We've not talked a lot about James Kahn, but he's written quite a few novelizations, like Return of the Jedi and Poltergeist are the main 2 that come to mind for me.
Yeah, I have both of those. I've heard Noah say a lot of good things about his novelization to Return of the Jedi. I have not read it yet. I think I read a segment from it, but I haven't read the whole thing yet.
I've seen a lot of top 10 lists on best novelizations, and Return of the Jedi is on there.
Nice.
But we're talking about Temple of Doom.
That's right.
And Temple of Doom is a weird sort of prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, where we open with Indiana Jones coming to a nightclub to trade the ashes of Nurhaci, ancient Chinese emperor, to a Chinese mobster in return for this diamond that they want for the museum. Things go wrong. He ends up teaming up with Willie Scott, a singer that is kind of down on her luck, because of the Great Depression, we find out in the book. And Short Round, a goofy orphan boy who ends up having the most character thought of this whole novelization. They end up in India, where they're sent on a quest to rescue the sacred stone for this village from this evil cult.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And it is a wild, unpleasant, goofy ride. And I want to stress goofy because a lot of the Indiana Jones movies are supposed to be kind of fun, and Temple of Doom is considered the one that's not fun. But there's a lot of comedy in Temple of Doom that is intentional comedy. Out of all of these, I think it was just like George Lucas was writing this, and he's like, "Too dark." I know. I'm going through a divorce right now, and I want to enslave Indian children in this, but we gotta have the little boy make jokes that don't always land. But I think they're funny.
Honestly, this was my favorite Indiana Jones story when I was younger.
I wasn't allowed to watch this when I was younger. Because of the monkey brains and the guy getting his heart ripped out and the children being enslaved.
Yeah.
He did this.
Yeah, I like you mentioned Short Round having the most character thought in this. It was just most of that was pop culture references, because I think they reference different movies that he saw 6 times or something.
Yeah, because I started writing notes, but there were so many of them. The first one, there's a reference to the Thin Man, because the second chapter is just Short Round's perspective on everything that's going on, which is one of the best chapters of the book, in my opinion.
I think there was a reference to the Invisible Man, Dracula, King
Dracula.
Kong.
Yeah, he talked about vampires. Yeah, Short Round. He's a funny character. I forgot what my train of thought where I was going with this. He prays a lot to different Chinese gods. Like
Yes.
it's like every description when he starts to get into it, he's like, "Oh, so and so, help me." When they feel wind at their back, whenever it's every time he's praying to somebody, which I thought was kind of comical in the way that was handled.
I gotta
Yeah.
say, Temple of Doom, I kind of remember being my least favorite of the original trilogy. And this is like my introduction into James Kahn because I haven't read Poltergeist or Return of the Jedi yet. But I'm going to say this. I thought his writing was very decent. It's just I kind of had to power through the story because I just don't like the story.
Yeah, and I had the same problem. But he does the best he can
Yeah.
with the material he's given. I read most of this book in one sitting.
Oh, really?
I read 3/4 of it in one sitting.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's like what 9 chapters
Yeah,
over
he's
like
got those long chapters.
yeah, and it was like
Well, in the hardcover, they're not that long, but it's because the pages are bigger.
I mean, it was kind of that same way with like the paperback and everything, but it was just like I said, I just kind of had to power through it, and like no disrespect to James Kahn because like I think he did a good job of making this story interesting. Like I just couldn't really get that much into the story, and I haven't seen this movie in a long time. And I was just like, I was trying to remember, like, was it this or The Last Crusade, the one that I wasn't a big fan of? And I'm like, oh, it's this one.
Yeah, The Last Crusade plays it safe,
Yeah.
and it's fun. This has like just wild things that happen in it. Things, and I want to talk about something because the dinner scene. I remember the first time I saw it, I thought it was the funniest thing I had ever seen. It's so offensive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, they
James
wouldn't
Kahn
do that
goes
today.
out of his way to have Indy's thoughts, which Indy's thoughts do not come up a lot in this book. You don't get Indy's perspective for long portions.
No, it's mostly just like he's just doing things, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's mostly Short Round.
And it's like kind of like Short Round is telling the story in a way.
In a way.
You know?
And then Willie Scott gets enough. I think James Kahn realized that she's just such an annoying character that he did like the bare minimum. Well, he did a little more than the bare minimum. We get her backstory about growing up on a farm and how she hated that, and then she wanted to be a singer, and like the Great Depression hit, so she left America and went to China.
Yeah.
Shanghai.
To work in the what is it, the Obi-Wan Cafe Obi-Wan? What was it?
I can't remember.
It's something Obi-Wan, which I thought was funny because I didn't know that. You know what I'm talking about? At the beginning, she's doing her songs at the nightclub.
Yeah, she's singing "Anything Goes" in Mandarin.
Yeah, and then I know it's like, what is it? The last thing when she's talking about going home to where like and abandoning anything goes.
Yes,
it's like nothing goes or something like that. It was tacky.
Yeah.
I thought James Kahn did, and sometimes he did very well with describing things and getting into the story, while others I got lost. Like the like towards the end with the they're on the track in the mines. In the film, it kind of moves real fast. In the book, it's like slow, and I'm having a hard time visualizing what's happening in the book. So I kept like, what is happening?
And
it was really dragged out.
To Molaram and what Molaram's doing.
Yeah.
a lot more than it does in the film.
Yeah.
Cutaways back to Molaram, which Molaram's nasty looking in this book. His eyes are sunken in. He's like,
yeah, there was a huge difference. One of the biggest differences that I that really stuck out to me was because I watched the movie last night, and this one, when at the very end when they're going across that old rusty rope bridge, you know, the wood is falling out underneath them. In the book, it's all like dry land, real rocky, and alligators are around in this rocky terrain. But in the movie, it's a river with alligators. So I thought that was kind of a weird. I don't think so. It was talking just about the big rocky terrain. I don't remember them mentioning the river. Like the water flowed out of those caverns and like into the rocky ravine.
I mean, at least we didn't get a scene like in the Roger Moore movie Live and Let Die where he like jumps on all those alligators just to get out of that trap.
So, the alligator tamer actually ran across alligators. It was a practical stunt, and check out Live and Let's Discuss, my James Bond podcast. We go into great detail about that. That dude nearly got eaten times.
But Matthew, Matthew, I have to agree with you. I mean, there's some Indiana Jones stories that are like you could like read and know what's going on, but there's also some that are like meant to be like you have to see it to know what's going on, and this is kind of one of them. And there was times like too I was just like I kind of felt like we were here, then there, here, then there, and I was just like, wait, what? Wait, where are we at now? And
it jumps around real fast, and it's like Willie. Why was she there? Why did she go with Indy? Why didn't she just like, hey, I'm getting out of my car. I'm going to get out of this car and go do something else.
Because she thinks he's attractive.
And she just like gets caught up with him. And then, you know, all the stuff that happened. I just thought it was funny because she worked at the nightclub and then for some reason had this interest in Indy, which we got more detail in the first chapter. She's like, oh, we get her perspective of this guy comes in. She's attracted, kind of wants to go talk to him a little bit. It's like dangers coming in with him, which I thought that was better in the book. But in the film, she's just singing, and then she just comes out and sits next to Indy. You're like, who is this, and why is she just coming out there to sit down?
It's implied she's seeing the mob boss in the film,
I guess.
I didn't hear too. Like she's like his sidearm, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, she was so surprised with that diamond.
And then there was that scene where like she's like swimming or something like that, and she thinks like Indy's putting the moves on her or something like that, but then realizes she's like, we don't know what's in the water, so that's why I'm asking you to get out. And I'm just like,
well, because she's ditzy and dumb. That's like the whole thing with her character. I noticed something. So we get to, I want to talk about the dinner scene some more because this is where I see a lot of differences. Certain dialogue that Spielberg gave short round in the film, Willie says it in the book.
Okay. Yeah.
Like she makes some jokes that short round makes. And I don't know if, because they don't work for short round in the film, and they don't work for Willie either, but they're from the script. It's not like James Kahn made them up. They seem to be in the script. He just changed what character said it. But like the Indy, it makes a point that Indy notices these aren't devout Hindu people, because Hindu people are vegan. And they're clearly eating meat.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to get into this because this is a fascinating thing about Temple of Doom in general. When you film in India, at least back then, you can't make India look bad. It is illegal.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Yes, you can. In the 80s, at least, you could not film in India and make India look bad. So I think that James Kahn putting that in, saying that these people they aren't traditional Indian people. They're a weird cult. That's why they're eating bugs and snake surprise
Okay.
and chilled monkey brains and tomato soup with eyeballs.
Yeah, that makes soup. It makes sense.
Makes
Because it
soup
makes
too.
soup. Makes soup.
There's also a dancer that gives checks out Indy, which is kind of funny. It's a one-off thing.
He's apparently the ladies' man in this book.
And then we clearly make Short Round. Short Round has an issue with the king or prince or whatever immediately. Like looks at him, is like, what a wimp.
I remember that. Yeah, that was good.
I thought
Film, he wants to be friends with the prince. He like waves at him and stuff. And of course, the little prince is under the he's a slave to Kali, drinking the skull blood.
Yeah, I thought it was
which is actually described as blood in the book.
I think it is in the movie too.
I remember
like some weird thing that they just put in a skull.
I kind of remember Indy not making a good impression either at first, because he says something, I can't remember it word for word, but like someone else and after that just said, it's like, now Dr. Jones, it's not polite to just out of the blue just insult your host or something.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's in the film too, because
he's
pushing because he's on the side. Well, they make it clear in the book he's on the side of the village.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's on this quest. Which they explain this in some of the Indiana Jones novels from the Bantam era, and I had hoped they would put James Kahn would put something in this book as to why Indy is such a jerk. He's unpleasant. He's unpleasant in the film too, and that's just because George Lucas was in a bad headspace. But he's really rude. Like, he's not the Indy that's in Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he's just bitter and mean. And in the books, spoilers, but there's a death that happens with someone he cares about in the books right before this, and that was to explain why he acts this way. The Temple of Doom. It might have been in the Dark Horse comics. It's in one of the two.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I was wondering, like on the last sentence, they did eventually all make it to America, but that's another story. Did that story happen, or is that just left to imagination?
I thought that was like one of the laziest endings ever.
Yeah, it really was.
It's very serial, like an adventure serial thing. I think
it's like what happened to Short Round? I mean, he's like the whole time imagining Indy as his dad, and like, does Willie qualify as his mom? You know, and it's like, what happened? Poor kid probably got dropped off at some, government house to be raised by foster parents. And he's just like, wait, Indy.
I know that there's a comic. It's not Star Wars canon, but it is the Millennium Falcon crashes on Earth and Han Solo dies. And Indiana Jones and Short Round's older. They go and investigate it looking for Bigfoot. And they actually, Indiana Jones looks at the skeleton of Han Solo, and Bigfoot is Chewbacca.
Oh my gosh! Oh my god! What is this? Like a fan thing?
No, it was a Dark Horse comic.
Wow!
It was a one shot. Yeah,
I need that issue. It's so stupid.
Good luck finding it. Indiana Jones comics are expensive.
Yeah,
I'm hoping with Indiana Jones 5 we get some epic collections of those comics, because I literally saw like the omnibuses in a lot, all 5 of them, going for $1,000 on eBay.
I have a question for you, Jeremy.
Yes.
Was there any reason like Temple of Doom was a prequel? Because I honestly, when I first saw it, I didn't catch on that it was a prequel. And I remember hearing that it was, and then I saw like the date at the beginning of the book where it's like a year before Raiders. But I was
I
just
don't
like,
know why Lucas did that. I think it's because Indy loses his hat in Raiders. He
mhm.
wanted the hat still. I could see him doing that. I could also see him being like, "It's an adventure serial. I can do these in whatever order I wanted." Because Star Wars started with Episode 4.
Well, I mean, if I remember correctly, like the one of the famous scenes from Raiders is like that guy challenges him with a big sword, and he just pulls out his gun, just shoots him. Don't they make
Yes.
like that joke
Yeah.
in
Yes,
Temple of
because he
Doom?
goes in the movie, but not in the book. In the book, he has a sword fight, which is kind of awkward.
Yeah, 'cause I
Yeah,
was
he's
like,
just like he doesn't know what to do, and he like just mimics the other guy who just lifts the sword over his head and screams.
yeah.
It's like,
I mean, I
okay.
always thought that that was weird. I'm just like, wait, if this is supposed to be a prequel, I mean, like, I don't know. It just,
They reference it again in Last Crusade too, when he
oh
grabs the Luger and he shoots through 5 guys.
well.
But yeah, in the movie though, he like reaches like the guy's like doing something with the sword, and he like reaches back to his holster and it's empty. That's when he picks up a sword and just goes after the
So
guy. Or
I guess
no,
you
he
could.
just like has a fist fight.
So I guess you could explain in like Raiders, he's like, oh, not gonna make that mistake twice, and just shoots him.
Yeah.
Well, in Raiders, that was because he was sick that day.
Yeah, yeah, I remember.
Harrison Ford.
That has been leaked recently. You can see the footage. It has no audio. You can kind of see it. You can tell that Harrison Ford looks ill. I think he had food poisoning or something. But
Yeah,
yeah, he got mangled in this movie. That's what the minecart fight, like the one-on-one fight on the conveyor belt, is different from this because I think he dislocated a shoulder or ripped a bicep or something. Like he injured himself. No, he injured his back. Harrison Ford injured his back and was out for like 2 months.
Mm.
And so he's only in the close-ups if you watch the film. And for the distance shots, he shot from the back because it's a stunt double.
So maybe they accidentally actually had one of the little voodoo dolls and made it work.
Yeah. But yeah, one more thing I wanted to point out is the possession when he's a slave to Kali, when he drinks from the skull. That was awkward to read. I was wondering the whole time going up to that scene when reading this book, like, how are they going to do that? And then I read it and I'm like, why is there a snake inside him? Like, Willie's a witch. And there's a creepy scene. There's a really freaky scene. But the best part of it is Willie's like, they got short round, and then like she goes to touch Indy's back after he's been talking to the British captain because he's been possessed, and he says nothing happened. She touches his back, and it's like wet with his blood from being whipped.
I kind of wonder if
Y'all remember that? 'Cause that was nasty.
I don't remember that.
I can't remember it either. Unless I just didn't think
Where was
anything.
that? Was that a
What?
deleted scene in the movie or what?
Oh, it's in the book.
I can't remember
Really?
what
I
chapter
don't
that's
remember
from.
that.
Because like in the movie, Willie doesn't see him until she's like about to be sacrificed.
Yeah, I remember that part.
But in the book, like she runs out of the tunnel, she escapes, where she doesn't escape and gets like grabbed by the thuggies. That's what they're called. They're called
The
thuggies.
thuggies. That's so dumb. It really is.
Yeah, and like it runs all the way back through the bug tunnel and like runs to the British captain's like, they've taken Short Round. Like the captain would even know who Short Round is because he wasn't introduced to Short Round. And then Indy shows up and she like hugs him and he's like, it's fine. I should have never taken her into those tunnels.
Okay, I think I'm starting to remember that now. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He goes back to her room and he's like sitting with his back to her, and she like touches his back like to caress it and comes back with blood on her hand. Like freaking creepy.
Yeah. When I rewatched the movie, it wasn't as creepy as when I saw it when I was a kid. obviously, you grow up and you see stories different, but like the special effects in the movie when he rips out the dude's heart in the beginning,
Yeah.
that I remember being really creepy when I was a kid, but the effects, like when I saw them just the other day, did not look good at all. It's like he's touching the guy, and then his
Very
hand just like goes in,
Yeah,
and
it
it's like,
speeds up the film.
yeah, it's like that doesn't look real. Why did that creep me out when I was a kid?
Because it's scary. You don't expect that to happen as a child.
Yeah.
See, I saw the making of Temple of Doom long before I saw Temple of Doom. So, like, I knew what all the key scenes were from that.
I imagine, though, the effects, though, being the equivalent today of like, oh, got your nose,
Yeah.
I just like when the heart catches on fire.
Oh, yeah.
That's dope.
I kind of wonder, like, you mentioned, like, had a snake, Indy, like, had, like, a snake inside of him or something like that. I was just like, I kind of wonder if that's no, never mind. I was going to say, I wonder if that's, like, the origin of, like, Indy hating snakes. But they mentioned earlier that, like, it describes, like, there's nothing else that Indy fears of this world except snakes and everything like that.
Well, they explain his fear of snakes in Last Crusade. When he was,
like, the origin of it.
Yeah, when he's the flashback scene in the beginning when he's a teenager.
Oh, it's been a while. So I think I remember that. Yeah. It's just like I said, this book was like, first off, I want to say I'm glad that we're like getting through these indie novelizations. I'm kind of hoping that we do finish all 4 of them.
Yeah.
But Temple of Doom was very rough. Like,
really?
Like, like I said, I had to kind of power my way through it, and it's just, it's like I said, James Kahn, did very good with what he had, but it's just, I've just never really cared for this story. And it's just, I don't remember, like, I remember kind of having a hard time getting into the movie, but, yeah, so just, like I said, it was just, I probably should have rewatched. Yeah, I probably should have rewatched the movie before reading it, but I kind of didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm kind of starting to wish that I did.
Fair enough.
I mean, I'll probably rewatch the film at some point and give it another shot, but it's just the novelization was just kind of not for me, I guess. But
I think, like, I thought the author did a great job with, like, when they get to India and that like priest or whoever is like in charge of that little town, the guy who's telling them like, you're going to the palace, and Indy's like, that's out of my way. And he's like, no, you're going. And so he's kind of like, okay. I thought he did a pretty good job, like, with all that stuff. I got kind of creeped out when they were talking about like the darkness taking over the city and or the village, and how all the crops like were swallowed by the earth. Like, they didn't just die, they like got swallowed up, and all the other animals died. I thought it was written a lot better than it was like produced on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. There was like some parts that I really enjoyed. It's just like, I remember it's just like the last couple of like, I just lost interest near the end, I guess is what I should say. It was
because I feel the same. Like, like I said, that cart scene, I was like, man, this is dragging so far out in the book. Not good. So I think Kahn maybe he was just working with what he had, or he's like, I got a deadline. just going at it and didn't stop. And sent the thing in.
I definitely got that deadline vibe whenever the last sentence is like, and eventually they made it to America. I'm just like,
but that's another story.
Like, the end. Bye-bye.
Yeah. That's just, that's another story. It's like, what a way to end a book.
I mean, I kind of got the vibe that's like, they made a Family Guy parody of like Stephen King getting hit by a car, and he's like, hey, this will make a good story. And he's like, 3 seconds later, done.
He tried to make that last kiss with Willie and Indy to be more romantic than it was in the film. He's like, in the film, Short Round is on an elephant, and they just like, the elephant sprays water on them, and they're like, they look over look over, like, but in the book, it's written like, oh, and it rained water down on them as they're like kissing. It's like romantic, and then they like look over, and then it's like the elephant had sprayed water to make it like rain. It's like, what? But in the film, bucket of water just clearly splashed on them, and then I thought it was silly in the movie.
Yeah.
Kahn spiced up some parts. So
Yeah, Jeremy, what do you think about the novelization?
I like it. Mind you, I thought this was fast paced compared to when reading for King of Our Nightmares, another one of my podcasts where we're reading The Stand. And I have about 700 pages out of 1,200, I think, into that, where some chapters are like 50 pages.
that's crazy.
Like there's said nothing on The Stand, but I liked it. I didn't like it as much as Raiders. I remember we all seemed to love Raiders.
Raiders was really good. Yeah.
There's one problem that we had with Raiders, but I don't know if you guys want to get into that.
Yeah, that was,
Let's go watch our episode.
Yeah. We go into some. We go into detail about one part that we did not care for. Yeah.
Which I'm glad that that topic didn't return in this book. So.
I could just see okay, let's write the novelization, but that first part in the first, but let's just kind of move away from that.
Yeah, but anyway, do we want to get into ratings at this point?
Sure.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a lot more to talk about without spoiling the entire book. So let's start with Adam. What do you rate this?
I'm going to, like I said, James Kahn, his writing was good. He did, we all agree, he did the best with what he got. And it wasn't it wasn't horrible, but it was just a little rough. I'm going to give it a C+.
Okay. Matthew.
Okay. Yeah, well, I thought James Kahn did a pretty good job with some descriptions, while other times got really too far into it to where I was like, what is he blabbering on about? So I'm going to give it a C+.
Yeah. For me, I thought there were some weird pacing issues at times. Some things added that didn't need to be added, and some things that weren't added that should be added. I give it a 3.8 out of 5 because a lot of what we had was pretty solid. But Temple of Doom as a story itself is kind of It's not a very particularly fun time to watch or read. There's some subject matter that's just not pleasant. I mean, child slavery, human sacrifice, snake surprise, chilled monkey planes,
very pagan stuff going on.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I am hoping that at this time next year, though, that we won't necessarily conclude, we'll move on to The Last Crusade, because that'd be kind of fun. And at some point we will have to go to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but thankfully that I think that has an audiobook.
It does as an unabridged one, but Last Crusade's written by Rob McGregor, who wrote a bunch of the indie novels.
Yeah, I read his Peril at Delphi one.
See, that's what I need to get into. I need to hopefully I can read a couple of those indie books before I read the next novelization. I think that would be pretty fun.
Yeah, he also released, because he wrote a novelization to the video game Indiana Jones and the Staff of Kings that was never published, but he did 4-episode podcast where they basically, I'm not sure if it's a dramatization of the novel or if it's just an unabridged audio book of it. But
it's funny you bring that up, because I can't remember if it was the Paper Movies or chat or if it was just directly to Adam. I found the Nintendo Wii video game.
Yeah, you showed me that.
Of that Staff game. Yeah. I was like, I should have picked it up. Is it horrible?
Okay. Horrible game.
So it's not worth.
Terrible.
Okay. Not worth the $10.
Well, I was playing Tomb of the Emperor's Tomb, which is the prequel to Temple of Doom on PC, and that's a terrible port too. I mean, the controller doesn't do all the controls, so you have to use the controller and the keyboard, which is uncomfortable and not fun. But
I almost picked up a Indiana Jones game that was on PlayStation 2, but I cannot remember what it was.
That would have been The Emperor's Tomb,
Oh, it was? Okay.
which is probably better on the console. It is. I bought all the Indiana Jones games that were on Steam for like $5.
Oh wow.
You know what I kind of want to read? I mean, I want to read like the whole indie expanded universe novels, but I kind of wonder if this is a prequel to Temple of Doom, since Temple of Doom's a prequel to Raiders. Like, it's like the equivalent to what Death Troopers is to Star Wars. It's called the Army of the Dead, which is like zombies. And I'm like,
Steve Perry's one book, which that didn't sell well, and that's why Staff of Kings never got published.
Well, I kind of wonder if that's like takes place right before Temple of Doom. I'm like, that'd be kind of interesting to read, you know.
Yeah. I think that they all those take place before Temple of Doom. All the Bantam and that Del Rey novel all take place before Temple of Doom.
I know that the first two of those books, Peril of Delphi and Dance of the Giants, have audiobooks on YouTube, which
are bad.
Yeah, they're very bad quality. But I'm like, hey, you know, I mean, free audiobook.
Yeah, easy to get through. I guess when you're working, you need to listen to a book.
I couldn't follow what was going on while working. I had to stop. But yeah, anyway, what are we reading next?
Well, Short Round actually referenced it in the book. We're for one of his pop culture. We're going to be. We're going to be next month. Is my pick? Yeah, my pick. We are reading the novelization to King Kong, not the Peter Jackson one, the original 1930s one, which does have an audiobook.
Yeah, and I own it.
I think I'm gonna either check it out or buy it, but yeah, audiobooks are I like reading with my eyes, but audiobooks are great, like you said, like when you have to work and everything.
Yeah.
And so yep, that's gonna and it's also very short. I think it's like maybe 170 pages.
Yeah, I think it's a 5-hour audiobook.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so
pick out the audio and gonna go ahead and throw it out there. I want to start on Willow reading because it's a bigger book, and listen to King Kong.
Okay.
I like that Matthew this time picked the longer book, so that way when Jeremy can like, Matthew, I hate you. Like normally it's just like I pick like Man of Steel or Godzilla, and then we're just like, he's like, Adam, I hate you. This book's like very long.
Well, it's Wayland Drew, so it might be a treat. We'll see. This will be the second book that I read. Yeah, Wayland
Drew writing fantasy.
Yeah.
And who's writing King Kong?
I cannot remember. Something Edgar Wallace. Edgar Wallace wrote the story to King Kong. I think the author's name is Delos Lovelace. I think something Lovelace or Delos. Okay. I cannot remember his name off the top of my head, but yeah, I'm excited for that one because like there's been in like the news recently, we're getting a lot more stuff about the sequel to Godzilla versus Kong. So I'm hoping that like at some point we'll get another Godzilla and Kong novelization. So
is it Marion C. Cooper?
Sounds familiar.
There's like I'm looking at the cover right now. I see Marion C. Cooper's King Kong by Joe DeVito and Brad Strickland.
That doesn't.
When was it published? Was it published in the 30s?
No, the novelization's kind of recently. Hold on.
This is a tricky one. It's old.
Unless there's like different versions of it.
King Kong by Delos W. Love.
That's it right there. That's the one we're reading. At least I hope we are.
Delos W. Love. Yeah, all three of us are going to find a different one and read it.
Hey, that'd be kind of an interesting discussion. Like, how are they different?
You like the Home Alone discussion.
Yeah, it shows by Edgar Wallace.
Okay, yeah. This one right here is what I see. Like, there's two different base screenplay by novelized by Delos W. Lovelace, Edgar Wallace, and Marion C. Cooper. Yeah. Okay.
I think this is the version that I have.
I have this version.
I have the one that Audible has.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I have a paperback you gave me. I don't know where it is though.
Oh, Matthew, I'm gonna give you a shout out on something. Since we're discussing King Kong next month, go check out his novelization review to Kong Skull Island.
Thank you.
Go check it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a great discussion. I was gonna review it myself, but I was just like I couldn't read it, so I'm just like when I reviewed a Godzilla novelization, you go, yeah, go check out Matthew's. His is probably better. Yeah, his is probably better than mine.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but
I think that's it for this
Yeah.
episode of Paper Movies. And remember, next month, pick up King Kong by Wallace. We think we'll post an official book announcement on the Facebook page once we get that exact thing down. Right? Sound good?
Yeah. I'll make an announcement of that soon.
Okay.
And I think that I propose that all three of us shave next month and still call ourselves the Men with Beard Podcast.
The Men with Faces podcast.
The Baby Face Podcast.
Baby Face podcast. Oh, that's funny. Not going to happen.
Nope.
No.
Just let my hair down and whatever. Anyway, I guess that's going to be it. Somebody else want to close this out before I complete idiot on my
This is a great way to end the podcast.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Men with Beard podcast with singular beard with love.
Yes. And you can find Jeremy over at Stupid Chainsaw Productions, where he's doing a whole bunch of cool projects, a couple podcasts over there. Like
things.
Adam, he's got Red 5 Reviews and what is it?
It's just my name now, Adam Bryant.
Oh, yeah, Adam Bryant, where he talks about nerd things like movies, like the Jaws movie ranking.
Yeah, which is surprisingly doing very well at the moment. So thank you guys for checking. Yeah, like I just passed over 200 views on that. So I'm just like, oh wow. Yeah. So thank you guys for checking those out. Yeah.
His Red 5 Reviews, doing a Star Wars talk over there. And you can find me over at the Geek's Attic, where I haven't done really anything lately. So plan on changing that soon. Maybe. Anyway, anybody else have anything to say?
No.
Nope.
Stay Gucci, everyone.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Guys.